There's a new doctrine shaping global power. It isn't written down, isn't formally agreed, but it's central to the emergence of a tripolar world, driven by three dominant leaders, each framing their actions not as expansion, but as restoration of lost power and rightful influence. And unless derailed, it threatens to reshape the world in ways eerily similar to those envisaged in the novel 1984. Yet, even if it is derailed, it's still more than just geopolitics. It's just the threat of this new world order, with battles for dominance by the great powers, will lead to precautions and resistance from the middle powers, which alone can impact almost every aspect of our lives. Welcome to One Finite Planet regime puppetry video on the Donroe Doctrine and the tripolar world, with the chapters as outlined on the screen. The term Donroe Doctrine, generally believed to have first appeared in the New York Post early in 2025 as a journalist pun on Trump's name and the historical Monroe Doctrine, is used to describe Trump following an assertive reinterpretation of that 1823 US hemispheric policy. The term, since used even by Trump himself,
This isn't a country that's on the other side of the world. This isn't a country like we have to travel 24 hours in an airplane. This is Venezuela. It's in our area. The Donroe Doctrine
is not an official term, so there's no strict definition. But the December 2025 National Security Strategy, as shown on screen, does come close. The original Monroe Doctrine was for the USA to be the sole major influential power acquiring new territory in the Western Hemisphere, and in return, the US wouldn't interfere with activities of other major powers outside of the Western Hemisphere. Note that in 1823, the Monroe Doctrine world was a place where ownership of territory was constantly changing. In 1821, following the First Seminole War, Spanish influence in the Americas collapsed, leading to US taking over Florida as its 24th state and Mexico becoming independent. There was no Canada yet, instead a group of separate British colonies, and many felt the US could expand from 10 million people in those 24 eastern states at the time to the entire North American continent, and perhaps the entire Western Hemisphere. Under the doctrine, the hemisphere became closed to outsiders. Other American states expanded territorially, but only the US accumulated enough economic, military, and diplomatic leverage to shape outcomes across the entire hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine comes from an era of might is right, a colonial era, before today's rules-based order, when territory was settled by force and sovereignty ultimately relied upon might. In the time of the Monroe Doctrine, the great powers had not yet reached the limitations of our finite planet. Areas of the globe were still considered terra nullius, that is, unowned and available for expansion. This continued until around 1900, when the international land grab fully ended. The Donroe Doctrine, US foreign policy moving back to the principles of might is right and declaring rules-based order never overrode might, means ownership of territory is still open to be questionable, particularly in the Western Hemisphere. But the new dominance is often in the form of regime puppetry, of forcing foreign powers to comply through measures ranging from tariffs through to military action. And despite the doctrine, many of those measures are not constrained by hemisphere or region. In contrast, the simplistic might is right, the concept of rules-based order, is effectively that of a global democracy, with countries following rules agreed by consensus of all countries. The first attempt at rules-based order was the post-World War I League of Nations in 1919, which in 1946, following World War II, was replaced by the new and improved United Nations. Despite its bureaucracy and flaws, the UN has provided a framework for nations to work together in many areas. But in a way, the UN didn't really provide rule of law that could end power politics. It merely forced it to wear a legal costume. The 5 nations, appointed as permanent members of the Security Council, held the power to veto any enforcement of any restriction on behaviour by themselves or of any nation acting under their umbrella. Yes, the laws made conquest illegal, but the veto and enforcement enabled any of the 5 to take the law into their own hands with only their reputation at risk. All permanent members of the Security Council have broken the rules, but until recently have generally claimed, like Batman in The Dark Knight or some other hero vigilante in a Hollywood film, they were heroes breaking the law to bring about justice. The problem with the vigilante justification is, unlike in Hollywood films, not everyone agrees that what the bad guy has done justifies breaking the rules. Still, the illusion of a rules-based order can be maintained as long as enough play along when the rules are broken. But things have been playing along towards this limit. China's claim to Taiwan and territory within the South China Sea have not convinced many that military action by China would be within the rules-based order or be justified by vigilante action. Russia's claims that Ukraine was run by Nazis has not convinced most other nations, leaving Russia's actions seen as unjustified. But no one has yet stopped them, despite the show of might being somewhat unconvincing. But the biggest upheaval has followed this US adoption of the foreign policy position that people have labelled the Donroe Doctrine. Yes, Maduro fit the villain description, and Batman Dark Knight-like vigilante action to extract Maduro certainly raised eyebrows, but then seemingly annexing Venezuela as a puppet regime, that's taking things further.
Well, but the president said it's true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world that have existed since the beginning of time.
Overall, it's been the combination of use of tariffs by the US as a form of manipulative power, combined with statements about potential control of other countries, including Greenland and Canada, that led to a standing ovation for the speech by the Canadian Prime Minister at the 2026 Davos Forum, where he called out how the rules-based order has in fact always been an illusion, and exposing it results in not just a transition, but a rupture. While defenders of Trump regime may be correct in suggesting that his threats were always only negotiation tactics, they were still enough to expose that yes, the era of the old belief in the rules-based order has ended, and the tripolar world, a world with three powers, each with the will and might to play by might is right, is the leading candidate to replace it. There are 5 beyond the rules permanent members of the Security Council, and only 2 countries vying for global economic dominance. So how do we get 3 poles? And why is Russia considered one of them? Because poles aren't defined by economic might alone. They're defined by military capacity plus mission-driven willingness to use it. The common ingredients are land area large enough to provide sufficient natural resources, the power granted as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, significant military power and nuclear weapons capability, plus a great again mission. All 3 frame their mission as, we were strong, we were weakened/humiliated, outsiders benefited, and we must restore what was rightfully ours. For Russia, the language is historical Russia, gathering Russian lands, near abroad, tragedy of the Soviet collapse, the great power status, sovereign civilization, with the grievances being USSR collapse is humiliation, NATO expansion as betrayal, and Russian speakers left outside the borders as an injustice. The West weakened Russia deliberately. With China, the language is national rejuvenation. It's a century of humiliation, restoration of rightful place, core interests, sovereignty and dignity. The grievances, the Opium Wars, colonial encroachment, Japanese invasion, Western domination, and Taiwan's separation. With the US, the language is, we don't win anymore. We've been ripped off. Bad deals, weak leadership. America first, take back control, restore strength. The grievances, the manufacturing decline, unfair trade, immigration, foreign freeloading, and lost prestige. Each mission for the country's great again status has clearly identified opponents responsible for the previous loss of status that mean it could take decades to deliver the results. And in each of these 3, the mission is led by one powerful leader who holds the vision with no obvious clear successor. Democracies normally provide a leader with a limited period of custodianship of the nation and limited powers during their term, constrained by laws, conventions and other mechanisms of government. Bringing restoration of empire, a great again mission, can require decades in power, the ability to ensure all areas of government are fully compliant, and sufficient power to suppress those deemed as aligned with the original source of the loss of power. Each of the three leaders came to power in a nation of not just a pattern of changes to who leads, but with, effectively, limits of 2 terms. To get past them, Putin initially used a loophole, but then Xi and Putin both had their constitution laws changed to bypass their 2-term limits. But they still need to ensure they don't lose out to political opponents, and in that they both seem fortunate. In Russia, political opponents have such bad luck with unsafe windows and other accidents, there's even a Wikipedia page reporting on it. In China, the problem for opponents is they just happen to all be corrupt, breaking rules leading to them need to be investigated, or in other cases, just disappearing. Perhaps magic shows are popular with the high-ranking officials. Some may feel Trump is making a genuine effort towards totalitarianism, but in terms of investigating or otherwise eliminating opponents, he's far behind the other two, and still has no clear path to overcoming term limits. It's a similar story with controlling the press. Things in the US are a long way from where they are with Russia or China. Reporters Without Borders, or Sans Frontières, track press freedom in 180 countries. Russia is at 171 and China at 178, with only North Korea and Eritrea ranking lower. The USA, as the last index, dropped 2 places from 55 in 2024 to 57 in early 2025. And while yes, the 2026 ranking could fall further, it'll still be far, far better than Russia or China. On the Economist Intelligence Unit, EIU Democracy Index, the US, as of 2024, was already a flawed democracy, and while the report for 2025 may be worse, the US is still far from the classification as authoritarianism, which is where Russia and China are. In terms of personal freedom, the USA is in the top tier, and Russia and China are down in the lowest of the 7 tiers. In summary, while following a great again empire restoration strategy over a long time frame could result in the USA having true authoritarian leader, it's not there yet. There are worrying signs. ICE's projected annual funding now sits in the range of a mid-tier national military, comparable to or exceeding the defence budgets of countries like Canada, Turkey or Brazil, despite not maintaining warships, submarines, bombers or fighter jets. This is not a force designed for defence against other nations, but for enforcement within the nation itself. As such, it's unparalleled. Civil rights groups and others have raised concerns that a greatly expanded domestic enforcement presence could discourage election participation, particularly among communities who feel most likely to be questioned. And that's not the only suggested threat to democracy. So yes, there are signs it's possible the US will move in the direction of Russia and China, and while press freedom is already lower than one would expect, and the US already ranked as a flawed democracy, becoming an autocracy would require following a long, complex and risky path. It's not a binary, fully yes or fully no. The Donroe Doctrine is ill-defined, and a tripolar world is a matter of degree, and it's about whether we are or we aren't moving towards an increasingly tripolar world. While right now it seems we are moving in that direction, the tripolar world collapses if the least polarised, the US, reverses course. But it's even quite feasible either or both Russia and China could also reverse course. First to the USA. Execution of the Donroe Doctrine could have peaked with the takeover of Venezuela, with a reality check of how to manage Venezuela still to follow. It's quite possible the move towards Greenland has been blocked. Even though Trump's Davos speech, I have this really powerful weapon, and if I did use it, you'd see how powerful it is, but I won't use it because I'll get my way anyway. Still leaves ambiguity on the final outcome, but a significant pushback has begun. Domestically, moves some interpreted as deliberately designed to create civil unrest could end up creating unity. Recall the famous dress illusion of 2015, where, when looking at the exact same image, some people saw blue and black and others saw white and gold. It can feel like a 2026 version is the video showing either concerned citizens or deadly assassin domestic terrorists threatening the lives of ICE agents. Even if the threats to democracy some fear do play out, it's far from uncertain they wouldn't just mobilise the opposition. While it's an extreme scenario, the reason US allows citizens to bear arms is to be able to resist an oppressive government. And the claim citizens no longer hold that right when protesting the action of ICE, that's created backlash. The different people interpret things differently goes to even the core of Make America Great Again mission. Does everyone see it as living standards in America have collapsed because of actions by foreign nations? Or do many see it as an internal problem? There is consensus. It allowed border control to become a real issue, but exactly why is complex, and we explored in another video within the Economics playlist, which also looks at how globally population growth in the 20th century led to immigration now becoming a problematic issue for many democracies. But it's not an issue solved by empire restoration. Russia and China, hard to see how Putin survives any end to the war in Ukraine, other than one that's a clear victory for Russia. Leaders of both Russia and China clearly face threats. Otherwise, the windows in Russia would surely be more secure, and far fewer top officials in China would simply disappear. Syria provided an example of how the collapse of authoritarian regimes can come suddenly and without warning. The hosts of The Rest is Politics quoted diplomats stating that should the regime in Iran fall, that would make those in China very nervous, as their hold on power is no more secure. The other challenge to a tripolar world is a different kind of democratic power of the people, a call for a real democracy of nations that may have begun in earnest with Mark Carney's speech at Davos, a call for other nations to band together and stop being supplicants competing for the favours of the great powers. This is new and will be explored in further videos, like the one on our tech future. Things do change. Conclusion. So there we have it. The Donroe Doctrine, to the extent it's even defined, and how it could give rise to an increasingly tripolar world, run by three increasingly authoritarian leaders, but could also easily reverse direction. However, what can't be undone is the exposure that the rules-based order is really only a myth, that the stability of a world where pieces entirely depend on the USA can't be counted on, and, as flagged in the Davos Mark Carney speech, a world where middle powers remain compliant in the face of tariffs and other forms of regime puppetry by the great polar powers is over. What will be changed for most of us, regardless of what comes next, is the technology world, as will be discussed in the video on how the tech world has now been forever changed. Like, subscribe, and click the bell for more on how this impacts our future.